Welcome back to Matt's Automotive Channel. What I have here behind me is a brand new project car. This one is a 2005 Legacy GT. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a problem that I had with the engine running. It turned out to be a vacuum leak. I fixed the vacuum leak, and then after fixing it, it ran even worse. So let's go ahead and get into the details of what happened and find out what is actually going on here. First of all, let me give you a little bit of background of what the deal is with this car. I bought this car with the understanding that it had a burnt exhaust valve, low compression in cylinder number 2 with some misfires. So when I bought this car, I was prepared to do an engine tear down and rebuild. So before tearing motors apart, I like to do some baseline testing, and so I kind of know where I'm going when I pull the motor apart. So I know what to look for and what problems I may encounter. So anyway, I started doing a compression test just to verify that we had low compression in this cylinder. Well, it turned out I did not have low compression in this cylinder. So then I went ahead and proceeded to do a vacuum leak test. So while doing the vacuum leak test, what I found was I had a pretty good leak here right by this bypass valve, or also referred to sometimes as a blow-off valve. And what I found was that this had no gasket underneath here. So it had a severe leak. And that was the root cause for many of the problems that the previous owner was experiencing with this vehicle. So I went ahead and fixed the leak by replacing the gasket in this and turned it on. I was thinking, wow, this thing's gonna run great now. And what happened? It ran even worse. So what the heck's going on? Why would fixing a vacuum leak make it run worse? Well, let me go into a little more detail as to what actually happened. Before doing any troubleshooting, I like to make sure that I'm starting with a good battery, as a bad battery can create a whole nother set of problems. As you can see here, the battery that came with the car is not in good shape, and the battery tester recommends replacing it. So that's what I did before going any further. So I'm going to do a smoke test here. We'll pump a little bit of smoke in here and see if we got some kind of vacuum leak. So we'll turn this on here. Here we go, we got our smoke coming out here. Not real obvious, but it's coming out there. And we'll go ahead, I went ahead and put a bladder in the intake here, so I'll pump smoke through here. And I hear something already. Sounds like it's coming from right here. I feel, oh yeah, I see some smoke there. Let me turn off the main lights and I'll use just a little flashlight. Sometimes it's more obvious when the smoke's not real thick. So I'm gonna use this little guy here. We'll turn off the lights, turn on this, and sometimes you can see the smoke better. Yeah, I see the smoke right there. And it looks like where's that coming from? Looks like it's leaking right here where that gasket is, this regulator. Oh yeah, I can feel it pumping out right here. A little obvious. Yeah, you can see it just pouring out right there. Although I don't know if it's coming from, I don't think it's coming from the seal. I think it's a little bit below. No, it's right there where the seal is. Okay, well, we definitely have a vacuum leak there. Hopefully this is the cause for all this, all the concern here and the problems. But yeah, that's pretty significant. You can see the smoke's coming out there pretty good now. So let's take care of that and see if that fixes our problem. All right, I just took the bolts out of this, and can you believe it? There is no gasket here whatsoever. And so yeah, there's just pouring out. I hope that's the whole problem. If so, this is a very easy fix. All right, just take a little closer look at this. I pulled this regulator off, and here's where the gasket's supposed to go. It's supposed to go right in here. So what's happening is we're pressurizing the system, and air is pouring out the side right through here. So let's get a gasket on that and see if it makes a difference. All right, got a gasket on here with the blow-off valve. Now, here another leak over here. All right, we've got some smoke going in here now, so I'm just waiting for the system to fill up with smoke, and I'm sure I'll see something here real soon. Leaks over on this side are real common, especially when the heat shield is no longer on the turbo, and then it's right near this plastic, so the heat heats up from the turbo, heats up the plastic cracks, and then you got a leak. This one actually does have the gasket in it because I see the little tab here. But I feel a breeze right here, so it's definitely leaking right here somewhere. All right, it's kind of tough to see, but there is smoke coming up here now. Very little, but you can see it oozing up here. So I'll have to probe around here a little bit more. Looks like it's coming up from underneath those hoses there. So I'll snoop around here and see where it's coming from. All right, sorry I don't have video of it, but it just turned out to be another bad gasket. So I went ahead and replaced the gasket, and it took care of the leak. By the way, I wanted to mention that I did go ahead and do a compression test on this motor. All cylinders looked pretty darn good. There was only 5 psi difference between the worst and best cylinder. However, when I had the plugs out, I did compare all the plugs. And as you can see here from this photo, the plug on the left, that's cylinder number 2, that's all carboned up. And when you contrast that to cylinder number 1, which is on the right, there's a big difference. So that kind of confirms that we were experiencing a misfire on cylinder number 2. Let's go through the details as to why this car ran worse after fixing the vacuum leak, and then how we fixed the issue. Okay, the first part to this mystery is due to the fact that this car is drive-by-wire. So there is no cable or mechanical linkage going to the throttle body, which is, by the way, buried under here, under the intake. So because it's drive-by-wire, it has no IAC, or idle air control valve. The thing that regulates the air is the throttle body itself. It's computer controlled, and it determines how much air goes into the system when idling. So over time, it figures out how far the throttle has to be open to allow it to idle properly. Well, since we had a bad leak over here by the blow-off valve, or air bypass valve, this throttle body learned that it could probably pretty much close off the throttle completely and still idle fine, because it was getting air through here, which is not metered over here by the mass airflow sensor. So the computer only knows the air that it's getting from this sensor. So if air comes in after that point, the computer doesn't know about it. All it knows is that it's got so much air coming in here. It adjusts the throttle to determine what the good idle is, and then it calibrates itself. So what happened was, we went ahead and then closed off this air supply to the motor. So the computer still thinks that it can shut down the throttle back here, almost completely close it off, and still maintain a good idle. So with this air not coming in here anymore, it was really getting starved of air. So what we had to do was reprogram the computer to understand what the new parameters were for a good idle. So there's a little procedure that you have to go through to relearn the throttle body for this new situation, and that turned out to be the issue. Once we relearned the system, it ran just fine. So the takeaway message here is that anytime that you do anything that's going to change the airflow to the system, whether it be a different intake or maybe even a different mass airflow sensor that might have a little different calibration than the previous one, you need to relearn the throttle body in order to have a good idle. So let me just go through the procedure that I went through to get this going, and I guess all car manufacturers have a way to relearn it. That's if it's drive-by-wire. If it's a mechanical system, then that's a different scenario where you have an idle air control valve. So anyway, let me go through the procedure for the Subaru as to what I needed to do in order to relearn the throttle body. Okay, the procedure is actually fairly simple. The first thing that you're going to want to do is to disconnect the battery. So, and then it needs to be disconnected for about a half hour. So I just pulled the negative battery terminal here and left it disconnected for a half hour. After that half hour has passed, reconnect it. Then you want to go inside into the car here, and once you're in here, you want to make sure that everything is off. Anything that's going to change or influence the idle, you want to make sure that it's off. So you're going to have your AC off, all your accessories, your HVAC system off, dome light, make sure it's off, everything. And then you're going to want to turn the key here and turn it to the on position, but don't start the car. You want to turn it to the on position so the throttle body will zero out, and it'll take about 10-15 seconds. Go 15 seconds before you start the car. So go to on position, 15 seconds, and then go ahead and start the car. At that point, set a timer and go for 10 minutes and let it just idle. Then come back after the 10 minutes, shut the thing off, leave it off for about 20 seconds, and then go ahead and again put it back into the run position for another 15 seconds, and then start the car again. And then let it run 5 minutes this time. After 5 minutes, come back, turn it off, leave it off for about 20 seconds again, and then take the car for a test drive. And that is the procedure for resetting the throttle body. So anyway, I hope you found this video useful. This is something that I actually just recently learned. I've been working on cars for a while. It just amazes me every time I get a project car. I always learn something new. So I will share anything I learn with you, and then hopefully it'll save you a little bit of grief. So anyway, with this car, what's next? We got to replace rear suspension components. It's making some pretty weird noises when we go over bumps, so we'll take a look under there and see what's going on. This car also has some paint issues. As you can see, this hood has had or seen better days and is in need of some serious work. So we'll go ahead and work on that. Also, this fender had been replaced, so we'll go ahead and attempt to paint that. And so anyway, those are just a couple things coming up on future videos. So anyway, go ahead and subscribe. Click on the notification bell so you get reminded of videos going forward. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.